Welcome to the Joshua Project Podcast with friends. Man, I've been trying to get my buddy Jeremy Weinmeister on here, and today's the day. We got you.
That's right, you did. I'm a tough one to track down.
Hey, yeah, you're a busy guy, which could be a good thing, but a lot of people outside of Montana probably don't know about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I grow up here in Montana. I was actually born in North Dakota, but my parents were pastors, and they also took care of foster kids. So for me, I had a lot of foster kids come through the house. It was roughly around 260 that came through the house in 18 years, and
Wow.
a lot of different a lot of just you learn a lot in the middle of that, and so I learned a lot about myself. And I'm a country probably at heart. I grew up on a ranch with horses, trained them. I actually have FFA titles. Some people are like, what is FFA? Future Farmers for America. For horse training and dog training, and so I can take horses, and I love to train them. It's actually like a release for me because I love just to work with them and see what God just does in those situations. And so, yeah, I grew up on a. You still there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My phone has like a weird call coming in, and so I was like, just give me a second, okay? It'll probably go off. Can you still see me even?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay.
So I imagine that you actually rode a horse to school.
I did. I rode a horse to school when I was a young kid, and so yeah. Let's see. There we are. Somebody was trying to call me real quick. Yeah, I rode a horse to school when I was a kid, and went to a one-room schoolhouse, K through 8th grade. There was 23 of us in the school, so it was a lot of fun. Just differences, man. For track meets, we had hay bale races. So hay bale, you go jump the hay bales, stuff like that. That's
Straight
how we rolled.
up Montana.
Straight up Montana, man. After that, I left Montana. After graduating from Absorki, I left Montana for about 14 years and went all over, lived in Seattle to Mississippi to Illinois, California. I mean, just all over the place. And so played minor league baseball for a long time. Had a huge heart for myself, just wanted to make the major leagues. For me, I just wanted to make good money so that I could just travel to churches and inspire people. And that was my goal in the middle of that.
We'll get to the story about how we met in a minute, but when I first talked to you on the phone, this is what I pictured. For some reason, I pictured you as tall and skinny, and kind of
nerdy.
But dude, the truth is, dude, you're a big old boy, man. When we finally did meet face to face, I was like, oh, I'm going to be the little midget in this relationship. I could see how you were playing minor league baseball. Yeah. I mean, I think you could easily probably played linebacker as well.
Well, I actually do because I play semi-pro football right now. And so they have me playing linebacker and DN. So God challenged me at 40. He said, hey, go play some football. And I was like, man, that sounds crazy. So I did. And it was kind of cool because when God challenges you to do something, you get scared in the middle of it. But there's also some types of redemptions that come in the middle of that. Because I didn't play football in high school. I allowed coaches and I allowed people to kind of determine how I would do things in life. And I didn't play. I played in college. But it was like God redeeming some things and redeeming the time for me. That's how I feel like this year has been for me, is God's it's like a year of redemption. I think we always want things you want things to come and you want things to just happen in life. And I feel like God is just redeeming the times that possibly were lost in my life. And he's just moving along in those ways. And it's kind of interesting of what he's doing in the middle of that, and dreams that are coming about and things that are coming full circle. And if I can say anything just in this, as we just you get to know me, or kind of in this moment, that God what he can redeem in a moment you think will take 70 to 80 to 90 years, or maybe you're getting older. Like I said, I turned 40, I'm 42 now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like how am I going to be able to achieve the things that I want to achieve when I feel like I'm getting older? But God can do it in a moment, like in a moment's notice. And all of a sudden it's just, boom, you're right there. And so you just got to trust him, trust the process, trust what he does, trust what he's doing. And so, yeah, I really felt like that. We went off in a tangent. You got to know me for a second. And then I just went off on redeeming. And so I guess that comes from my story too, for my life. Like I said, I have two boys. I was married for 14 years. And then all of a sudden we went through a divorce, and it just absolutely crushed me. I didn't do anything to help in the middle of that divorce. I didn't fight in that process. And I was probably like falling apart before that. And I've really noticed that out over the years, because it's been 6 years ago. Tore my kids' lives and stuff like that. I ended up for 6 months. I mean, I didn't even tell my parents I was divorced for 2 months because the guilt that was on the inside of me. A lot of my friends left me. People just kind of just left on the side. And so in that whole entire time, I ended up, what they call, I like to say, call it sex, drugs, and rock and roll, because it's easier to say like that. You live like you're a band in the 80s. And then in the middle of that, I remember when I told my dad that, hey, you know, I went through this, and my dad, all of a sudden, every day, he just started calling me and just would say, hey, I love you and I'm proud of you. That's all he ever said to me. I love you and I'm proud of you. I love you and I'm proud of you. Just kept saying it, kept saying it, kept saying it. And the more you say it, eventually somebody's going to believe it. And I started to believe that, you know, somebody loved me and was proud of me. And I remember waking up in a house, didn't know how I got there. I had no idea, man. I was like, I have no idea how I got there or where that's at. And I just remember started walking. Of course, the big tall cowboy calls me. If you ever saw my dad, we look a lot alike, because he's a big tall cowboy, and I dress in skinny jeans every once in a while. And so
there's no way you're getting your thighs in a skinny jean. I don't think I even want to picture that in my mind.
How about skinnier jeans? Skinnier jeans.
Skinnier.
Skinnier. And so in that whole entire thing, like, he called me, and I was just like, I could just feel God saying, and I love you and I'm proud of you. And I was like, man, how could you be proud of me? But if we even think about even like what Jesus did for Peter, how could Peter feel like that Jesus was proud of him? But who's the one person that Jesus asked for? And he said, go get the disciples and Peter. Like, specifically by name, he called him, because that's how important Peter was. The rest are important too, but Peter needed to know at that moment that he was so important because of the failure that he had, because he was so adamant of like, boom, I won't fail you. I won't do this and I won't do that. And you learn life lessons through that, of life just kind of can hit and just hit you on the side. And so I started a process of just rebuilding my life, just step by step. And so I was homeless for 3 months, lived in a van, not down by the river, but it sounds pretty good because you can bring old Tommy Boy back. That skit is funny.
Anybody who knows me knows about that skit.
I'm telling you, you should just, every once in a while, you should just throw those funny skits up there, because
Chris Farley, Christina Applegate, and David Spade. Come on.
My goodness gracious. So yeah, and so, yeah, I was living in there, and then God just continued to process and move things through my life, and went through different jobs, different places. And eventually I started my ministry. It's called Converge. I have a thing called Be Legit in the middle of that, be loving everyone gracefully in transformation. And so the goal of it is to help people take their reason into the routine of life. How do you take Jesus into your routine? How do you take it into your places of influence?
I love your tagline. You have a YouTube. You can check it out right here. I don't know how to put that banner up there, but he has a YouTube. Go to it. Subscribe. You have a tagline, though. What is your tagline? Because I want you to share it, because I absolutely love it.
My tagline?
Yeah.
Oh, proud of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I say a lot of times, I say, love you, proud of you. If you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Snappy Chat, TikTok, take your pick, you'll get my video either way. And so everything I'll say on there, I'll be like, I love you, I'm proud of you. Because I'm proud of, because you are God's creation, no matter who you are. Yeah. You are God's creation. God created you. And so how could you not be proud of God's creation and what he did? We all do things that we're not proud of, but that's the part of the growing process that we do in life. It's not, it's just a gradual thing as we continue to go. And so, yeah, I love you. I'm proud of you. I believe in you. I say, stay amazing every once in a while.
Stay
And so,
amazing. Yeah, that's great. Hey, look, the truth is we do need to hear that. Even as grown adults, hey, I'm proud of you. Um,
yeah.
I'm 48, and I spoke to my dad on the phone the other day, and we never talk. We don't have a relationship like that, but we've had conversations throughout the years. And part of my life of debauchery, my sex, drugs, and rock and roll was all because all I wanted to hear growing up from my dad was, "Hey, I'm proud of you. I love you," and I never heard that. And the other day when we spoke on the phone, um, he said, "Hey, I love you. No,
Mm.
I want you to know I really do love you." Man, he's told me that 5 times my entire life. And man, dude, you choked me up. It was like this awkward, long silence because I had a frog in my throat and I
Oh
couldn't
man.
say anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I wanted to tell him I love you too. But man, that was so hard because we yearn for that. And that is so good, man. Despite what we've gone through in life, man, you got to know every day your father wakes up, your father in heaven, and he looks down and he says, "I'm proud of you, man."
Yeah, so true, man. He is. He loves you, man. Even in Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's masterpiece, created anew in Christ Jesus." I mean, it's how powerful is that verse? Even in that, and it says we were made in God's image. He didn't make trees. He didn't make anything else in His image. He made us in His image, and that's how powerful it is. Even if you go through the Old Testaments of all those things of even Abraham, where he was in Sodom and Gomorrah, he's like, if there's even just one, a couple in here, we spare the city. And God's like, I'll spare even if it's a couple, because He does love and He does care for people in general. And he even, I even think about even what He did for Pharaoh, even into going through the not Ten Commandments, the 10 or the plagues. There we go. 10 Commandments. My goodness.
It's one
Going
of
through
those
the
tens.
yeah, going through the plagues. I mean, how much does He actually care for somebody? He just wiped them out just like that and said, "Forget it." But he gives people chances and gives people opportunities because He loves His creation, no matter what it is.
I love Ephesians 1, where it says that God sees us as holy and blameless. And
Come on.
man, my desire for Christians is that they would truly know that.
Yeah.
I just watched this movie called "I'm Not Ashamed." It's Rachel Joy Scott's story. She was one of the first people shot at Columbine.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she really struggled with her faith and standing up for her faith in high school. But she has this quote, see if I can get it right now, that all it takes is the courage of one person to show an act of kindness, and that can spark a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Man, I think, like, honestly, man, if like Christians really saw themselves as holy and blameless in your sinful state, covered by the blood of Jesus, regardless of what you did yesterday, starting today forward, you are holy and blameless. That is how God sees you. He
Yeah.
doesn't see you as just a sinner saved by grace. He sees you as saved by grace, holy and blameless. I think we really could make a difference in this world. And don't we need that in the world right now?
we do. We do. It becomes so negative on both sides. I mean, there's faults on either side of the whole thing, and us as Christians, we know Jesus. We read the Gospels and we read the different things, and we put preconceived judgments of how we want certain things. We all have different convictions that we all go through, but your conviction of how you're going through is different from my conviction, and in between there, the biggest thing that we got to remember is that Jesus died on the cross for us and He loves us.
Amen to that.
So some of the other stuff, is probably not even like really worth it. And Jesus, if you read through the Gospels and actually just really listen to it, what did Jesus do the whole time? He broke down every single thing that they were trying to think was so important. Always was breaking it down.
Right.
I mean, just every single moment in life, He's still continuing just to break down the barriers. He goes to the woman at the well. He's breaking down the barrier. I mean, these are Samaritan women, like Samaritan people, and they're like, "Why are you coming around us?" And it was a woman even take the fact. And so Jesus is breaking down all these different barriers of what it means to follow Him. And and all those guys, even those disciples, they all had their different perceived things of what it was supposed to look like and how it was supposed to be and who was supposed to be the one, and how they thought Jesus should come in. And Jesus like, no, I'm coming this way through love and compassion. He goes to Zacchaeus's house. I mean, Zacchaeus was tax collectors were so incredibly horrible. I mean, unbelievable. If you think about the person that you despise the most in whatever is just happening in life, uh, no matter what side of the fences you're on, or politically or anything like that, like you just think of that, like it pops in your mind and you're like, boom, yes, I struggle with this person. Like it hits you like that. That's what Zacchaeus was to all of them. I mean, just like that. And so if you're having that, that's how Zacchaeus was. And Jesus says, I'm going to go dine with you tonight. And so that's where they were like, why would you do that? Like, this guy is horrible, you know?
Hey, have
So,
you paid attention at all to the Chosen series?
oh, I watch it. I watch the whole thing, man.
Dude, I
Abs-
love how Zacchaeus is portrayed in that miniseries. Uh,
yeah.
totally different than what I've envisioned in my own mind throughout the years of reading the Bible. But man, I gotta say, man, it's probably spot on. You know,
Oh,
very articulate, smart uh, man, maybe with autism.
yep.
And yeah, the story is, man, Jesus goes and dines with one of the most notoriously hated people. And not only that, but it says that he went through a feast,
Yep.
and that's my Jesus. I love him.
And that's the awesome part, man, is like, yeah, it's so cool, like what he did and just how it showed that. And you might not agree, like if somebody is watching, they're watching this right now, and you might not agree with everything that the Chosen has, but I would say you should always look through things on it in somebody else's eyes. We should always look through in somebody else's eyes. What are they thinking? What are they going through in their environment that is so much different than what I am going through? And I try and do that in everything. I had to really do that, especially in McDonald's, man. When you had people yelling at you over milkshakes, I was like, dude, like seriously, you're like freaking out, homie. I mean, you got a pickle on your sandwich and now you're gonna throw a milkshake at me. I'm like, wow, there's some bigger issues going on. And so
Oh
you
my goodness, yes.
their eyes of like what is going on today, or what did they receive? You know, this was a little bit before cell phones. I know some people are like, no way, you didn't have cell phones. Yeah, that's right, man. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't call somebody until we got to the stop and found a payphone. But you know, just before a lot of those things, but maybe they've received bad news in the morning, or maybe they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or maybe they've just never had anybody to encourage them. And if I can say anything, go find somebody to encourage, because then you're encouraged. Like, go tell
Right.
somebody you're proud of them. And that's a hard thing to do. And it's not easy. I have a lot of people that kind of, that follow me, my kids, or that come around me, and they're like, man, you do it so easily. And I said, well, it's not so easy. It's just become easy because I've done it so much.
That's right.
And it's not easy. It takes a moment of just walking through. Is it weird when you're walking through a grocery store line, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, thanks for working today, man, really proud of you? I mean, that's a weird statement to say. It's pretty easy for me to say now, but I can understand that first part. But I still walk into other places, and I'm like, God's like, you need to say something to this person. I'm like, man, God, I just don't really want to say anything to this person right now. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you need to tell them thank you so much for working. And I'm like, oh, it just sounds so whatever. And it's become part of my lingo. And so you know, some people will be like, well, what's the special day today? I said, I don't know, you're working, I guess that's a special day. I don't know, thank you, I appreciate it, because I'm able to get whatever I'm getting in that moment. Probably means a little bit more now than ever, but I've been doing this for 3 years. And so I got stories of people crying. I've got stories of grocery stores that are like fighting to have me come through their aisles. I can go through Starbucks, and now I don't go to Starbucks quite as much anymore. But I go through the drive-through, and they're all just like, no way, hey, you know, and just, it's kind of interesting of how God opens up those different things.
Yeah.
And even like the Starbucks employees, the manager there, she's into a lot of other things on the other sides, probably a little bit more earthy, and um, I'm trying to think of the right thing, yoga related, maybe sight cards, different things like that. But she comes and asks me like life questions about Jesus.
Because you built a relationship.
yeah, I built a relationship, and we might not agree on everything,
Right.
but why do you feel this way, or all those things. And then the other thing that she'll tell me, she'd be like, thank you for never looking at us bad because we work for a company that supports gays or whatever and stuff like that. And I said, um, you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. My phone did something goofy. But a company that supports, and I have a hard time saying this at times because I don't want people to look at whether you're struggling with this kind of sexual sin to this kind of sexual sin. They're all the same types of thing. And everybody's trying to prove that this is okay and this is okay. When you boil down to it, those sins are all the same in Jesus's eyes.
Right.
Absolutely. And so they're like, "Yeah, I'm so appreciate that you never like say anything bad about us, and you're always supportive about us, and our company believes this." And I said, I'm not worried about those things of what your company thinks. I'm worried about you as a person. Because what if I change you? Well, like, not what if I change you, but what if I inspire you, and all of a sudden down the line you become the CEO of Starbucks or something? Do you think that that could change a chain reaction down the line, or a CEO of a different company? And so we don't know who that person is. And so when we're not going in because we don't believe what they are. All we're doing is saying is that human being that's working there trying to support their family is no good. And that makes no sense to me. It's never made sense to me. So you're going to say that employee who is probably, a lot of them there are working, and actually Starbucks is paying their college. I mean, we're talking this, they're paying their college to get their bachelor's degree, whether it's in teaching, to business, to like 4 different things.
Yeah.
But Starbucks is paying for it, and now they don't have debt, and they're coming out being teachers and able to go inspire. So why wouldn't we want to go in that moment? Or, we post things so quickly just to throw stuff out there and just jump on these bandwagons. And I'm very careful what I post. I mean, if you follow me, you just see my videos. That's all you really see. I don't put any political stuff. I don't say anything about it. I don't care on either side of the fence. The one thing that I totally do believe in, that I look into a candidate and I was like, I believe that there shouldn't be abortion. I think that's one of the hardest things that we just don't get. And I remember teaching in a school, and they were like talking about all these different things of, this is when the coronavirus was starting up and the flus and all these things. And I said, do you know what the number one killer, it's not shootings in schools, it's not gun violence, the number one killer in America? And they were just mentioning all these things. I said, it's abortion.
Yeah.
And some of them are like, what? And I said, yeah, that's the number one killer, billions a year. So if there's anything we can fight, but I do know people that have had abortions too. And so I don't want to sit there and say that you're a bad person because that happened. I don't know what happened in your life and those decisions and all those different things. This went on a huge tangent right here, but
I'm letting you go.
But us as Christians, I don't believe in abortion. I will always tell that, but I do believe in the person. I do believe in the person. And so I don't think it should be as easy. I really don't. It's really easy to do. And so anything we can fight those things on those things. And so that's my semi-political rant, I guess. I don't have very many, but I just want to love. I just want to love.
Come on, man. That's what we're here for. Love everybody all the time.
I get so frustrated on the inside when it's, I remember somebody telling me the other day, you should like stand up for these things, and you should stand up against gay rights and all these things. And I said, I stand up for the rights of human beings.
Period.
That's all it is.
I don't care if it's a black issue. I don't care if it's a purple issue. I don't care if it's a gay issue or if it's a drug issue or a gang. I don't care. You are made in the image of God. Whether you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior or not, you're still made in the image of God. My job is to love you. Simple.
Yep.
Love your neighbor as yourself. It's not talking to the left and to the right. It's talking about your neighbor, the person who is right in front of you at any given moment of the day. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, you talked about jumping on bandwagons, and I just don't have a need, a desire to justify anything in my life by jumping on the current social justice issue, because I'm
Mhm.
always about those. I don't think people should be killed by any means, even if it is a necessary means. I don't think that people should be killing one another. Period. There's a
Yeah.
way to solve conflict and disputes and differences, and it's not through killing one another.
Yeah.
So I'll always stand up against that. And I think, man, that we as a society as a whole are jumping to conclusions on things in an emotional state before all
Mhm.
the facts are out there. I mean, it's social media, so boom, boom, boom. Things are. I've recorded a 30-second video
Yeah.
of, a 7-minute fight, and now all of a sudden I've made a judgment about you because you're on that video as the
Yeah.
victim or the perpetrator, and I've judged you from a 30-second video that I'm not involved in because of my emotions without knowing the facts.
Yeah.
And it's really causing a divide in this country, maybe even in the world.
Yeah.
And I wish that we weren't at that point. But
Yeah.
hey, I grew up listening to the Beastie Boys. I could probably quote and sing along with just about every single lyric from NWA's Out of Compton.
Oh,
I know I'm a
dude.
white boy, but I probably could. Grew up listening to the Fat Boys and Too
Yeah.
Short. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of like how we met. There was a hip hop show coming to Billings, which is where you're from. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or where you live? And I had just listened to Brian Trejo before I saw some of my friends post this on social media that he was coming to Billings. I was like, no way, man. Brian Trejo comes out of gang life. His twin brother was murdered right in front of him. And now he raps and gospelizes about Jesus Christ. And so I'm like,
Yep.
man, I got to go to this thing. And a pastor friend put me in charge of the promoter, our friend Charity. And Charity was like, hey, man, you need to meet this guy. And I think she said the same thing to you. And I remember sitting in my driveway right here coming home one night, and we rapped on the phone. And we're like, yeah, we got to get together.
Yeah. For
And
sure,
then
man.
that's when I met you, was at that show. And that's
Yeah.
when I was like, oh, my gosh, this is a big old boy. Not who I am pictured in my mind.
I'm a security guard. That's what I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm a big dude. Oh, for sure.
so that was a pretty cool introduction, because you're working with, well, you're a substitute teacher, is that correct?
Yeah, I substitute teach, and then I travel to churches all over, and I do school assemblies. Um, and I've also started an online youth service to help rural churches that don't have youth pastors. So I'm doing those once a week. And I take a little bit of break in the summertime because that's how I used to do youth ministry. And some people didn't really totally agree with it, but my youth ministry did really, really well because summer it's a different animal, man. I really focused on just getting to know kids one-on-one and different things like that and doing different stuff, whether we had camps. Things are different this year, but yeah, so I've done a lot of teaching, been in the schools, love teenagers, and doing a lot of school assemblies. I mean, my school assembly, I talk about bullying, and I also talk about teen suicide. As I was bullied in high school, and or even in eighth grade, and he used to call me flounder and fat and all these different things, and that was part of the reasons that I didn't play football and basketball and all these other things. Like I said, I let other people determine who I was instead of me, myself, and I, and who Jesus thought I was. And also in fifth grade, my best friend killed himself
Mm.
from being bullied at a school. And this wasn't at the country school. I went to another school in between that just because I wanted to go to a bigger school. But my best friend killed himself. And so that's always been impactful, that I think about the words that we say and how, like I told you, even with those Starbucks employees or just different people you meet, the words that we can say can have so much impact. They say words, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me. Well, I can tell you this, I've been hit by sticks and stones and BB guns, and I don't remember them as much as the words that have always stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
So what we say can travel through life with people.
Yes.
And what we do can travel through life with people. Those simple moments that can happen in that thing. And I remember my best friend at that point in time. I wish that I would have been there even more. And I said, after that, I said, I would never not be there for a friend. I will always encourage them on a daily basis, no matter what in way I can do. Even if I don't get encouraged, I'm going to encourage them. So it began a process in my life from that point on. And I share that in schools. And I mean, the place I can, weirdly enough, I could take a school of 800 kids that are just rowdy, and you know how they can be loud and all these things, and I can make a room just silence where you can hear a pin drop just by those moments. And they'll tell me, they'll be like, don't preach about Jesus. And I can do that. I can not preach about Jesus, but they all know who it is. In fact, when I was substitute teaching, the kids would come and ask me, they're like, do you follow something? Because there's something different about you. Like,
Right.
what is it? And I was like, yeah, there is. There is. I have something in my life that is so special and so good. And I remember the principal of the school that I was working at, he's like, if they ask you, you can always tell them that you follow Jesus. I have no problem with that. He
Yeah.
goes, if they ask, he's like, I don't care. He's the, we just don't preach. You don't have to preach it. They see it. Trust me. Every kid sees it.
And that's
They
it
see
right there, right? That's the old
it.
Francis Assisi, always preach the gospel, when necessary, use words.
Yep.
Uh, I love that, man. And it's funny is I've gotten beat up by Christians for quoting that. And I'm like, well, listen, first off, you're no Francis Assisi, okay? Your first title isn't saint. I'm going to go with this guy over your opinion. But
Yeah.
those are great words, man, because our life. So we were talking about this earlier. You go to the bank and the teller's just rude and short with you. And you have a
Yeah.
smile on your face, and you're just trying to be nice, but what you didn't know is that she got a phone call on the way to work that her mom just died, or
Yeah.
that her husband's having an affair. You don't
Yeah.
know that. And so
No.
those words that you choose to bring to that situation, they will bring life or death. And so our
Yeah.
words are so important. And I think we could probably go another 90 minutes talking about social justice issues in this world, talking about the current political climate, talking about self-righteous, pretentious Christians, talking about camps. Let's see, where else do we want to go, Jeremy?
That's so
But
funny.
as we wrap this up, and I realize that this is a loaded question, but as we wrap this up, you're a busy guy, man. You're always on the run. You have your ministry. You have
Yeah.
football and baseball and youth ministries. Tell us, in this season, which has been different for all of us,
Yeah.
give us a snapshot on what rest has looked like for you. What have you learned about rest, and what have you learned to incorporate into your life during this time?
As this, and to go to just a small backstory, because I'm still here. Before we get too far, real quick, let me grab a charger real quick. It'll be weird on your podcast, and I'll have some more.
That's how we roll on this podcast. Play some little music in the background. People like it when I do my dances. So I'm in my garage today. How cool is that? Kids are on Zoom calls, finishing up the last weeks of school.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Weather out. Look at that. He's back. Like you weren't even gone.
No dead air. No dead air. So we were talking about rest in that. And so let me just take a little bit back, because I was substitute teaching. I'm traveling. I'm still building up as far as funds monthly for my ministry and what God is doing in the middle of all that. And so God told me back in November, he goes, I want you to apply for the census. And I was like, why, God? That makes no sense. Like, it didn't make sense. So I applied for the census, and 3 days before they shut everything down, I wasn't able to travel to churches. I wasn't able to do school assemblies. I mean, I had 9 school assemblies canceled. I wasn't able to sub in schools. 3 days before that, I got the job at the census as a manager. And so I was able to work the whole entire time. Isn't that crazy? Absolutely nuts. So
Good thing you listened, huh?
yeah, right. There's a little lesson. When God tells you to do something, go ahead and do it, because even though it sounds crazy and doesn't make sense that you don't see it in the future, God knows more than you do.
Come on.
Absolutely. So in that process, so everything gets shut down, all those things. And what I started to learn about rest, even for myself, I found myself that I learned that actually, like, this social distancing in some sense for me was also like relieving, because I didn't have a ton of these pressures in order to live like a certain way. And so I am fairly steady and fairly busy. And I noticed that I was probably like not necessarily doing too much, but I wasn't very smart in how I was doing it. If that, like, work in the smart aspect of what you do in life. And so I learned that through all this, that I needed to allow myself to rest and realize that the situation that God was happening, he was taking the busyness of just normal busy stuff, like just going to a store because you're going to go to a store type of thing, like those kind of busyness, and kind of took it away. So where I found myself, and I do a pretty good job with my kids, like I'm pretty good about it, but I found that I even lacked even more family time. And when I started adding that family time a little bit more, I actually got more energy, which was crazy. That allowed me to do the things that I've been able to do on a constant basis. And it's giving me that types of energy in the middle of that. And so what God has taught me, he said, I will give you rest in the middle of this whole entire season, but I'm going to take some things out of your life that you thought that you needed. And so as he took those things that I thought that I needed, whether it's the health club, whether it's the movie theaters, whether it's just going to a sit down restaurant, all those types of things that sometimes we think are like a way to do rest, but all of a sudden it becomes like really like you don't feel rest after you're there. And so he kind of took a lot of those things away, and it's allowed me to have more balance and on the inside of my life, that I'm actually more productive now than I ever was. As crazy as that sounds. But
Totally makes sense.
I found myself taking things away from the outside and finding the most important. And when I found the most important was my kids as my family, and I put God here, my kids here, and the rest kind of just comes down to here. I have more energy, more wisdom, more as far as like my speaking abilities and stuff like that. I find messages for myself to be coming to life a lot more. And because I'm having this balance and I don't have those things in my head. And so that's how I found in the middle of that, like God was just resting my soul. And I felt so energized that a lot of that was taken away, that I'm actually scared if it comes back. Like I'm legitimately worried of it coming back.
Yeah.
And I worry about just for like, because in this process, and I know this was a loaded question and I'll finish it up, but in the process of all this, I saw more families taking walks. I saw more families being with each other. I saw more of those types of things than I'd ever seen in the past, long time. I mean, not since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so wherever you're at, no matter where you're at, allow God in this time. You might have felt like, oh, we're quarantined, all this is taken away, but maybe we just needs to be taken away so you can find the value of other things that are so important that gives you more energy, gives you more abilities and those things. And it takes a lot of that less stress that happens in our daily life.
And it's
so
crazy because it doesn't really make sense, right? Because you're like, but I have to add this now. I have to pray now, or read my Bible now, or play a board game with my family. But at the end of the day, you're like, that was actually rewarding. Watching 3 hours of football, which I'm yearning to do. I don't even like watching baseball on TV, but I want to watch the Padres right now.
yeah.
We realized like that's really meaningless. But like that board game, even though I didn't want to play it at first, after 45 minutes, like that was so much fun. And I'm glad I did that with my family.
So true. I found myself now watching less TV. And I'm not trying to hammer on TV or anything like that, but I found a lot of things becoming boring in that sense, where this other stuff was giving me life. So it's been really fun for me because I feel like I went back to my childhood of where I found things were really exciting, because some things were taken away that they were just luxuries there. And God's putting a lot of balance into my life, and I have to allow that in my own life to allow balance.
Yes.
And as we continue to grow through this process, and the thing that I've loved for the church, and you're a pastor, and this is, I've been with my dad through this whole situation. The one thing that I've noticed, and I know that you're working on your online things and stuff like that, is that we forgot that there is an online field out there. And this opened up the doors so much for that.
Very
like
true.
more than we ever would have like focused on, right?
Yeah.
And so as we come back into the church, it allows us to reach a field that is out there that was untapped, that needed to be tapped in the middle of those whole entire things. And we might look at it, it's like, oh, well, now we have to sit separate rows and stuff like that. But there's some people that won't walk into a church if they know they're going to have to sit right next to somebody.
Yeah, that's right. And I've been saying this whole time, because the common theme is I can't wait to get back to normal. Whether that's church, whether that's movie theaters or sports, I can't wait to get back to normal. And I'm like, no. Look, man, normal wasn't working. Normal got us to this position. Normal got us to families being separated, and now families are coming together. If we just go back to normal and fail to learn the lesson, then shame on us.
Yeah.
This is like a biblical story of God taking something away, and giving the people an opportunity to come back to Him.
Yeah.
And I'm by no means saying that God caused this, but God can use this. I will say that God can use this. But man, those are such wise words. And I hope that, like, as we finish up, just listening to a podcast in our day, that we would say, yeah, where's my rest? Where's my rest? I want to be like Jesus. I want to go take a nap right now.
And took a nap on a boat in the middle of the storm. Yeah, I'm going to go to sleep.
I love it. Hey, clearly, Jeremy, we have more to talk about. And so I look forward to having you back here on this podcast. I'm going to keep my mouth shut because it'll just take us down another rabbit trail of conversation. But my little tagline that I like to say at the end of our podcast, I've stole it a little bit from you, so it might sound familiar. But thanks for tuning in, friends. Be well and love one another.